Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Rittner of the Rittners Floral School in Boston, Mass. It's a pleasure to welcome you into one of our classrooms today. We've got a very neat program for you. As a floral designer, we're constantly looking for new and interesting materials and things that will make our designs appear interesting and also make them easy to do. And we've come across a product that we think is just great. Kiwi Vine. That's right, Kiwi Vine. This stuff is amazing. Let me show you some of this. Look, it's big, it's curly, it's complicated, it goes in all different directions. Look at the size of this thing, it's immense. And by using Kiwi Vine, you can come up with some really cool things in your floral art. And in this demonstration, we'd like to just show you a few ideas here at Rittners in our 6-month day course. We've been playing with Kiwi Vine, and we're amazed at all the great things you can do with it. Let's show you just some of the things that you can come up with. Look, here, this particular design here, if you look at it, it is a very cool design, but it's really easy to do. If you look at something like this, a container with some foam in it, take your Kiwi Vine, run it in all different directions, put 3 or 4 pieces in, green the base a little bit with some of our foliage, and then dendrobium orchids. You can't go wrong with dendrobes. They're absolutely gorgeous. They're expensive, they're upscale, they're a very neat flower. And then just taking stems of dendrobiums and inserting them in through the Kiwi Vine, and you've got a big design, one that could go in an entry hall, go on a mantelpiece. It's just big, impressive, looks rather wild, and yet it's really easy to accomplish. Let's show you some other examples of some really cool things you can do with this great product. Here, let me pull this one down, and I'll put another one up, my viewer, and take a look at this. This is very similar, stylistically, very similar to the last one. Again, using a different container. This is a little more contemporary kind of container. We call it a brick. It's basically a ceramic base that can either accommodate water or foam. A few of our trick dianthus down here along with our foliage. Then again, taking some of the Kiwi Vine, placing kiwi here, just letting the natural curves of this stuff go wherever it wants to, and then taking some of our roses and working a few roses through it. In this design, you only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roses. That's it. But notice how much bigger this design actually is and how wild it looks because of the kiwi. Isn't this stuff incredible? Very easy to work with, very easy to achieve these things, and yet you can come up with things so nice, so quickly, and amounts of material very minimal. Let's go from one extreme to another and show you a few other examples of things you can do that will make your designing more interesting using some of these kinds of products. This one is a little bit wild. Let's come up with something that feels a little bit more minimalist. And to do that, we're going to use some very interesting design tricks in this one. Now this feels a lot simpler, not as many flowers, it looks like initially, but it actually is a little more complex. What we have in this particular design is a container. We have a Duchess rose here. What is a Duchess rose? A Duchess rose is essentially when we take rose petals, individually wire them, and actually build a bouquet in our hand with it, often used in wedding work. But we're using it a little bit differently here, and in this particular design we're coming up with a very contemporary take on the concept of a Duchess rose because we're using it as a focal point in our base. But notice that in using it as a focal point in our base, we're taking advantage of the twists and turns of kiwi, placing it on the left side, working some through the design, working some over on the other side, letting the curves twist and curve where they want. And we're coming up with a very interesting contemporary take on the use of the Duchess rose, which is a very interesting and complex piece, and using it as a focal point along with the kiwi to come up with something that's really kind of cool. So you can do so much with this stuff. It's just unbelievable. Let's play with another example. Let me show you another thing that makes use of this great material, this kiwi. This one feels more like a structured arrangement, and let's show it to you. It's again a container. In this particular base, we've got all kinds of things. You'll notice flower-wise, we happen to have 3, 4, 5 of our roses. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of our bells of Ireland. But again, what makes this design interesting and visually complex is the use of the kiwi. So you can take kiwi vine, interweave it first into a container, and then work other things around it to come up with compositions that are really, really neat and interesting and fun. And again, flower-wise on this one, not a whole lot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 roses, 1, 2, 3, 4 of our bells of Ireland. The kiwi fills it in here, here, over here, up here, over around here. It really gives quite an interesting look to our designing. Well, what else can we come up with as far as the use of kiwi? Well, here's one. This one's a little bit more traditional, but again, it shows how you can take this great product and use it in different ways. A container. The container is an interesting one, very, very popular these days, a container with moss embedded into it. And then we have essentially a nice tight bouquet in this particular case, using all kinds of things. We have our carnations here. We've got some of our button palms or athol palms, which are green in color, daisy palms that are yellow, a few miniature carnations in here. And then to give it a little bit more upscale look, we have a few alstroemeria tucked in, and of course our roses worked in here. But notice, to give this design a more contemporary feeling to it and to give it a kind of wild effect, the use of kiwi vine, because the kiwi is placed here, 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 here. It weaves through and it gives almost like an umbrella over the design. It almost shelters, as it were, the tighter bouquet that you have here in your design. Again, something that normally would be considered very, very traditional if we just looked at this alone without the kiwi, can be made to feel 21st century, very, very chic, very, very contemporary, a little bit way out, as it were, with the use of some of these branch materials worked into it. Again, this is something that you, my viewer, can use in your designing. When you're playing around with your vase arrangements, make something up, do something that feels a little bit more on the traditional side, and then work some of this stuff through, and wow, it's going to give a whole different dimension to your designing. Well, I've got one more design that we'd like to show you that I think you're going to find kind of neat. Again, using the concept of the kiwi in our arranging. Let me just move this, my viewer, and just bear with me while I bring the other piece out, because it takes me a second to move things around. Oh, you're going to love this one. This one is fun, funky, very, very cool. This one's a little bit more elaborate, as you can see. Back up the camera a little bit so you can see exactly what we have here. This is a more elaborate piece. It is, again, an example of taking more classical designing, more traditional kinds of concepts and playing with it with the kiwi vine. This design incorporates a little bit more in terms of materials. We've got our bells of Ireland worked through the design. Very, very pretty flower, gives a great effect. We have our cremone palms, which are in white and yellow here. We've got some red carnations worked in here. And in this particular design, just to underscore the theme of love, whether it's for Valentine's Day or a general design for romance at any time of the year, we happen to have a balloon in here that says, I love you. It has a heart shaped. It definitely conveys the concept of love. And then the punchline, kiwi, worked all throughout it to give a classical high-style linear design a little bit more of a way out effect by working some of our kiwi material through it. Well, my viewer, I hope you enjoyed this brief visit to Rittner Floral School. It was a pleasure to have you come in and visit with our class today. As you can see, take some of this vine material, play with it, make it your own, and come up with some really cool things in your arrangements. On behalf of all of us here at Rittners Floral School, we thank you for coming in and visiting with us today.